Hello.
Hello. Hello, Fatih and Matthias.
Hi, Kara. Matthias.
Hello.
So you got your new email address, Kara, I suppose.
Indeed, I do. Do you have it? Should I?
No, I don't have it because
Okay.
I would have added you to comments I was putting on the white paper. And
Yes.
I have your old mail address, but I don't.
Okay. I'll Slack it to you.
Yes. Yes. Thank you. Were you in this ETSI conference, Kara, or you missed my?
I did. I had work tasks, but I have signed up to it, so I hope that will give me access to a recording pretty quickly. You know how they sometimes will forward it to individuals who have signed up for the conference. How do you feel? How did it go?
Well, it was actually better than I expected, because the recording was done by ETSI events people, and I didn't see the recording afterwards. I thought it was bad, but I think it was one of my best ever talks. And then we got lots of questions. We may get some contributors from telecom. Who knows?
That would be great. That would be fantastic. Actually, if you'd like, would you like to give a recap of your talk? Just briefly, and it's a little bit, I'm not sure how you approached it because I haven't had a chance to see it yet, but it struck me from the talk title that it was a little bit a different approach than what we've looked at so far in this SIG. So I think it might be interesting for the meeting. Does that sound good?
What we can do, actually, one of the people in the conference who asked lots of questions, who is heavily engaged in CI/CD domain, maybe I can reach out to him and ask him if he is up for a common blog post for CDF. We write, me and him writes a post talking from ETSI telecom perspective, ETSI as an SDO, and then he could contribute his pieces, then I could contribute CDF pieces, so we come up with a common post on CDF site, perhaps.
That would be fantastic.
Yeah, I'll reach out to him and see if he's interested.
I'm trying to share my screen, but I think I've set my privacy settings too strictly or something.
I can share if you are having trouble with your computer.
Yeah, oh, I might have it now, actually. It should be useful for me. Please bear with me, everyone, if when I share you, no, it's not allowing me. Oh, it's so annoying. Okay, Fatih, if you wouldn't mind, I would appreciate if you shared.
Let me try. So. Okay, am I sharing the right place?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
The right tab.
Okay. Yep.
Great, let's welcome everyone, and for everyone who is here today, why don't you add your name to the participants, as Oliver's very nicely doing. I'll do that as well. Great, we can get started. Let's go over some of our action items from past meetings that we had to catch up on. What we have is Tracy, who I don't believe is on the call right now, was to speak with SysQ, to find out about SysQ software bill of materials. So we'll leave that as an action item for the future. And Matty to reach out to Kate Stewart. Is Matty on the call right now? Okay, that's fine. Great, Fatty, it's you to speak with Santiago.
Yeah,
yes, go on, please.
Yeah, I postponed it because, you know, the conferences happened last week, and I thought like not to disturb him while he was working on conference, because he was part of this supply chain conference as well. But I will reach out to him this week or maybe early next week to see if he is interested in joining one of our meetings.
Okay. Thank you for reaching out to him, Fatih. That's really, really fantastic. And then I mostly Fatih has been working very hard on the Interoperability Sig Road Map. Shall we have a look at that, or shall we first do a few more updates here and then at the end look at the roadmap? What do you think? I think that's a pretty good. It's an easier way to work our way into the meeting. Okay, so the next item on our agenda is really admin. The meeting time needs an adjustment as we have this shift in meeting times that happens, and it never happens the same time around the world. I think it's like a 2-week period where everything's just a little bit weird for those of us who are trying to have globally distributed meetings. So our proposal is that we're going to move the meeting time to 1600 UTC. And we are skipping a meeting on November the 4th, which is great because I can't make it. So we will be meeting afterwards. Does 1600 UTC from essentially mid-November onwards work well for others on this call?
Okay, from my side.
Yeah, same here. Should work fine.
Yeah, I think it stays same time for our time zones, like 5 p.m. for EU and 8 a.m. for North America. If I'm not, I mess, like I'm not good at this calculations, but like, because like before summer, I think last year we ran 1600 UTC, and then we switched to 1500 to, you know, keep the meeting time same for our time zones, and now moving back to 1600 seems to be the original way. And like I think last time when we discussed this topic again, Andrea, I think he suggested that it is better to skip the meeting that falls in this period. So that is the proposal. So we don't need to, you know, mess with invitations or people's plans.
Yes, that odd week that is just awful. So I think that's really the right decision. Okay, great. Okay, now we get to talk about Fatih's keynote, which just happened. So please tell us more about your keynote, the conference you were speaking at, and potential collaborations.
Yes, now in the past and still today, I am contributing to some Linux Foundation networking projects, which is like telecom heavy community, and it has few projects like Open Network Automation Platform, Anuket, Open Daylight, doing like orchestration, SDM projects, and so on. And a few of my friends from that community actually put up my name for this user conference on advanced automated testing as a candidate to give a talk, and that became a keynote. And then that keynote happened this morning, and that was my second ever keynote, which was like a bit stressing for me. But the interest was high because telecom industry is going through this transformation, as I was mentioning previously, and it is adopting cloud native like many other industries, and the networking products are becoming more cloud native rather than physical network functions. And cloud native network functions will bring up this DevOps type approach to telecom industry as well. And then this was a good opportunity for me to go and talk about what we are doing in our interoperability SIG and CDF at large to get some interest from telecom industry. And the reason for thinking this was a good opportunity is that if you remember, if you looked at one of the reports published by CDF recently, telecom industry is not doing great when it comes to speed and agility and such things, and it is lagging behind compared to web scale and e-commerce or entertainment industries. So this was kind of a way for me to go and invite telecom industry to CDF. And there were a few good questions like how we can push telecom industry for more CI/CD way of doing stuff, continuous delivery and continuous deployment. And then I highlighted CDF is the place to come and talk about the challenges and work on common specifications or de facto standards. And we'll see how successful I was soon, hopefully, if we see more people coming from telecom industry, because I feel alone here, except Emil and Matthias. We don't have many from telecom industry, but that was it. And the conference is user conference on advanced automated testing. And this year's theme was on edge deployments. You may be hearing with this Amazon and Microsoft and Google coming to telecom industry with their distributed cloud infrastructure and providing new capabilities or operators like AT&T, Verizon, and others. So what we are talking about CI/CD and this interoperability is pretty relevant to what these operators are going towards together with vendors. So that was a bit longer than expected summary. Any questions about the conference or HC or telecom in general?
It's super interesting. Thank you for sharing, Fatih, and thank you for speaking about the SIG. Hopefully we will have them have their participation and see how we can collaborate more. Was there anything that jumped out that they were particularly concerned about in the areas where we're working?
One question was actually, that was a good question. The person asked, there are two ways, like he actually answered his own question, like there are two ways. We either do nothing and expect some de facto standard to emerge from one of the committees such as Jenkins, or we go and do stuff there, like in CI/CD domain. And my answer to that was like, we waited for that to emerge within communities, which hasn't happened yet. Yes, there are collaborations happening across communities like Tekton and Jenkins X and Spinnaker and Jenkins, but there is no holistic take of this interoperability question. And that's why we have this special task group interoperability within CD Foundation to come up with collaborative approach to bring up some harmonization within domain. So yeah, the actual question we are trying to address here within SIG and in CDF was asked, and my answer to that was come and join us in CDF.
Nice, well done. I'm looking forward to watching it. I can't wait to see it actually. Great, so
enlist you should enrich our portfolio for sure, having them here.
And the other benefit could be because like the thing is like, especially with Etsy 3GPP, again, sorry for talking about telecom, they have really good and healthy collaboration going on between STO, Etsy itself, and open source communities. And they have lots of experiences they could share with us, both from the community perspective and from STO perspective, because like how SPDX did with SPDX spec, making it a standard under ISO, they may, share their stories, Etsy and Linux Foundation networking projects about how they tackled some of the similar challenges within their domain, which could help with CD events, for example, because CD events is working with their spec to, avoid some pitfalls and do things in, more welcoming way, perhaps. I'm not saying we are not welcoming, but, when standards come into picture, things become a bit different. So yeah, I mean, I hope we get some additions to our portfolio from telecom or operators, especially.
Great. Any more questions for Fatih? Awesome. Well, thank you, Fatih. And moving on to yet more conferences. It's like conference season now. KubeCon, as we all know, which just happened, and there was a supply chain security con, which was a co-located event, like day zero event, that was co-sponsored, I think, or how would you say, co-organized in any case, with the CDF and OpenSSF. So it was actually one of the most attended co-located events at KubeCon this year. So lots of interest in that space, well received. The talks were excellent. If you haven't had a chance to see them, look out for them. If anyone would like to share their reflections on these events or ways in which initiatives that were being discussed, either with supply chain security or in KubeCon in other talks that you saw, how they sort of relate to and impact our work on interoperability.
I have a question about not the talks, but the booth. I think Emil, Kara, you had booth duties, yeah? How was the interest like? What can you say?
Yeah, I can talk for the SIG events booth, and unfortunately, there were, some lurkers there listening in. Well, maybe a few seconds and then leaving. And apart from that, it was just us more or less in the core group of the SIG events there. So it was me, Tracy, and Steve, and I think Andrea was there, yeah. And Kara, you were there a bit as well. But apart from us, I think it was no one there really. So we had some time for ourselves talking about topics that we have on our minds, but not too many external people listening into it, unfortunately.
Yes, I would concur with that. It was nice to catch up and see you all, but it was less of an outreach effort than I suppose we would have thought it would be. And in general, that's true for the CDF booth and from what I hear from others for almost all of the virtual booths. So for the CDF booth itself, overall, there was a little more traffic, the virtual one. There was a little more traffic earlier on in the conference. And then I think as the days passed, it really petered out. But I think that just points to the fact that virtual booths are very hard. I think the in-person booths benefit a lot from literally being in the hallway track, as well as, people cruise by and chat while they pick up their swag. So I think the virtual booth misses out on two of those advantages, and it makes it very hard to get a lot of traffic to the booths virtually.
So anyone knows if CNCF published videos on YouTube? Because I missed this supply chain keynote from Solarwinds, and everyone says it was an awesome, great talk, and I want to watch that.
It was a very good keynote. It was very open in many ways, but also very grounded, I think, for the industry. Defensive only in that, different things like Solarwinds is my company name, not that, my company's name, not the not the actual name of the hack, things like that. It's quite funny, but they have put in place a much stronger internal platform, which they're going to open source actually, and using a lot of open source projects within it. So it was pretty interesting to hear how they've approached the problem and looking for solutions. And it really just indicates how we're all, to some level, quite vulnerable to these kind of attacks, which I think it was what made it so resonant and important of a talk. What I would say too is I watched the vast majority of the talks on the day, and they were all good, like really all good. Maybe not all of them were made headlines in the past year, but they were very good talks for understanding how, for me at least, for understanding how these different tools that are quite new to the ecosystem can fit together and the different roles they play when you're trying to improve your security posture. So I just thought it was a really good covering of the ground. And I found it really interesting. I don't know if anyone else was able to attend on the day or has seen the talk since.
I wasn't able to attend, but are those available on their website? The recordings?
They certainly will be. I haven't had a chance to look. I can have a peek right now, or I can have a peek shortly and get back to you, Raman. But they will be inevitably. I don't. This is a pretty quick turnaround to have them up now, but maybe it's
yeah. I was just checking on YouTube. They are not uploaded yet, but they are pretty quick normally. Like you said, Kara, like maybe next week they become available on YouTube.
Cool. That would be good.
What I thought was interesting too is they had some talks around SBOMs and how to handle SBOMs, which was quite good. I think a lot of work is being done in that area. And maybe last month or so, I put it in our Slack here for this SIG, but Gareth Rushgrove, who didn't speak about it at the event, but spoke about it before at another conference, on different interoperability concerns around SBOMs, mostly having to do with sort of like creating standards of how to store them, version them, access them. And you can see how that actually would become almost immediately a problem if we're all going to be producing SBOMs and sharing SBOMs and using and building off of each other's, So I thought that was, a direct interoperability issue and something that was pretty interesting. I kind of wanted to take the pulse in this meeting and in our group in general to see if this would be something we would be interested in picking up. And I would imagine we would be working quite closely then with individuals outside this group who are working on this, probably within the OpenSSF and others. No, just me. Oh no. Okay. I mean, I don't know what your appetites are for what to tackle. Where should we be focusing, or if you want to engage with new areas or not. I'm not going to force it on anyone for sure.
Supply chain security is becoming, it's coming to the limelight much more than it had been before, especially since the few high-profile attacks that have happened, Solarwinds and what have you. And in fact, there is an effort starting inside eBay to really start to look at the included libraries that we all use, open source libraries. We just use them, we just use them blindly, as expecting them to just do what they do and do what they're advertised, but no one's really spending time to scan them and look for vulnerabilities or even just malicious code. That would be terrible. So there is an effort inside eBay that's trying to do that now.
From again, I can share maybe what's happening in telecom industry. Like what Ramin just said is like this thing is like everyone talks about supply chain now. And White House executive order, we probably all read the first time ever they mentioned open source in one executive order. And similar to what White House did, I think EU released a report recently, maybe during September, talking about these things. Plus India released an order saying trusted supplier or trusted provider. And they all point to same thing, like software supply chain security. And like this, not just for telecom industry, but whoever supplies software to, you know, especially government organizations, perhaps they will be impacted. And like telecom is same, it is not different like the others. And yeah, things have to be done. And related to this, I think OpenSSL made an announcement last week about the latest investment they received, and they will put an effort into this area, like similar to SPDX. Perhaps we will see more cross-community collaboration happening in software supply chain. And like CI/CD is an important aspect in supply chain. I think it makes a lot of sense to, you know, look at these aspects both from interoperability perspective and broader CI/CD perspective.
Yeah, I entirely agree with that. I think we also have a lot to add to that conversation, especially those who are building and developing the tools and using them, because really we do want to make sure that it is easy to incorporate, to both generate and incorporate SBOMs into our pipelines, and the policy checks that will entail. I feel like from an ease of use, from an interoperability perspective, being engaged in that conversation as CI/CD tool end users and vendors is a really important viewpoint to add.
Yes, and the idea for doing the scanning is actually offline from the pipeline itself. So that all the pipeline needs to do is check to make sure that the dependent libraries and projects that are being used have already been scanned. And if they're not, then they'll flag it, because during the pipeline, you don't want to be taking the time to be doing the scanning. So scan will happen offline and then get entered into a database. And then all that happens during the pipeline is check the code base to make sure that any of the dependent libraries are within the safe database. So these kinds of techniques is what's being used in approach to try to safeguard the supply chain.
Definitely, Roman. Sorry, I didn't mean to imply that the scanning would be done as part of the pipeline.
Yeah,
Thank you for clarifying.
We're trying to figure out ways not to slow down, our pipelines and still have them to be safe from a supply chain standpoint.
Yeah, if I think about what we have been discussing within the SIG for a year or more than a year, I think we are successful realizing software supply chain thingy without naming it software supply chain and without seeing the White House executive order, because the topics we have been discussing, like standardized metadata and policy-driven CD, they could all contribute to securing software supply chain. But that's that makes me think like we were on the right track, but we perhaps didn't have a lot of traction with doing real stuff. Perhaps like we have been talking and highlighting issues and talking about potential solutions, but we haven't really made concrete, or we haven't really brought concrete things out of our discussions. That is like maybe this roadmap could be a way for us to put our thoughts in a bit more structured way and use some buzzwords to communicate with both with CD Foundation and other communities, saying that yes, we are working on these things and how we can work together to make real impact, helping the other communities and users like eBay and Ericsson and vendors who may be coming up with solutions addressing these challenges. I know if I made sense, but
no, that totally makes sense, Fatih, and also really smooth segue there. Do you want to talk about the roadmap?
Yeah, maybe I can switch that. Now
Awesome.
You can see the screen, yeah?
Yes.
So you all know, you all contribute this roadmap when we released this during summer of 2020, maybe. It's 1.5 years now. And Tracy Miranda started this document. And once we were done with the roadmap, I moved this to our repo as a markdown file, if I remember correctly. Let me check that to make sure I am telling the right thing. And this has been there, yeah, 16 months ago. So 16 months, we have been working with many of the things we include in the roadmap, and we actually completed some of the things, and some of the things were pretty successful, such as event workstream, and it became top level SIG. And then we had this knowledge transfer, we continued doing that, and lots of other things like vocabulary thing, which is now taken over by best practices SIG, and they have a separate repo called glossary, I think, to keep pushing for those things. And given what I said, like, yes, we have been talking about things, but we may be kind of standing still when it comes to some of the key topics we have been talking about. And that's why this topic came up, like, should we look at our roadmap and refresh it, update it based on what we have been discussing, and perhaps focus on the things we can really make an impact based on our experiences and knowledge in CI/CD domain. So what I've done is I took the original version of roadmap, I updated the title of it, Interoperability Roadmap 2022. I don't know, we should perhaps not put year there, but I want to make it different from the original one. And then start commenting on the document heavily, like what we can change, what we can keep, like this, for example, knowledge transfer. My proposal is to drop it because this has become the way we operate by inviting people to share their work within communities, within their companies, about how they are doing things. And then some things like end user requirements that is still valid, because we should continue making end users part of our conversations, but by inviting them to our meetings and making them part of our SIGs. And like, I think all of us in this meeting, except perhaps you, Kara, are coming from end user communities or end user companies. So we should continue doing that. So keeping it shared terminology, we can move it to SIG best practices and contribute to this under their, repositories. So we can drop it. Point 4, it is still valid. Standardized frameworks, still valid. Promotion of best practice could perhaps be done by the SIG best practice, and we can contribute from interoperability perspective into that. And then supply chain is something new we could highlight in our roadmap. Now I am quickly browsing through chapters and we can talk about them in more detail. And then when it comes to roadmap, so again, I did the same thing, what we can drop, like knowledge sharing, CI/CD vocabulary. This was already completed, so we can remove it. And then we can move some of the things we highlight as the things to do now as completed, because we completed some of these things. Like case studies, I think, Ramin, you presented your approach to pipelines within eBay. And I think, Emil, you did similar thing with Eiffel. So we can list them as completed items. And then identifying focus areas. This is kind of a bit outdated because we have addressed some of these things. So we can take a fresh look at these focus areas and update this chapter. Events, we can perhaps drop this because, again, it is done by Events SIG, but we can highlight the fact that we want to collaborate with Events SIG, because what Events SIG may come up with could be a way to address interoperability. And reusable libraries, we haven't done much there, so we can keep it as future item. We established workstream setup, so we can mark that as done and move it to completed. So if anyone wants to come up with a new workstream within Interoperability SIG, they have a way to do that. Supply chain is proposed as a new item to work on right now. And an additional proposal under that is to combine these different topics like standardized metadata, policy-driven CD under the software supply chain, so we can relate to broader industry initiative directly rather than us talking about things in our terms. We talk about things in common terms like software supply chain, and policy is one thing under that. And next is same, what we can add as next things to work on. And later event standardization was here, so we can perhaps drop this because it is done by event SIG, and we add some future-looking statement like whenever event SIG comes up with specification, we work with that specification to make it part of broader interoperability question. And that's, I basically questioned what we put there as our roadmap and tried to say what we can do based on what we have been doing last 1.5 years. And now I stop. Comments, questions?
Yeah, it's gonna have to look to see what's what is a worthwhile effort to pick up and really concentrate on. And this is probably a good segue for me to let you guys know I'm actually leaving eBay, and my last day there. This will be my last meeting joining you guys as part of eBay, and I'm moving off to Salesforce. And I'm joining their DevOps automation group, which is responsible for CI/CD across the company. I'm gonna push for them to basically, I'm not sure if they're already CDF members, but I'm definitely going to push to get them involved in CDF if they aren't already. And yeah, you're checking to see if they are
Exactly.
members or not. But in any case, I'm gonna remain as I'm very active in CDF regardless. It's something that's really benefited, mutual benefits. So, and I'm passing on the information to my current boss at eBay to see if they want to assign another person as representative for eBay to CDF. But yeah, that's something that will be happening in the next few weeks.
Congrats, Ramin, and happy to hear you want to continue talking with us, working with us. Should I say you like us or?
Of course. So yeah, I actually left you a message, Fiti, on Slack, on CDF Slack. For the time being, like to switch to my personal email address for contact info until I get established over at Salesforce.
Okay, yeah, I will check my message. Thank you.
Yeah.
Congratulations, Orman. That's awesome. And thank you for your continued involvement and for encouraging eBay to bring another individual to become involved as well. From what I can see, I don't think Salesforce is a member yet of the CDF. So by all means, we would be happy to welcome them in. So if you would like to either contact myself, Tracy, or Jackie, we can certainly help support any of those conversations and help move them forward.
Yeah, that would be great, actually, because once I get in, and it'll take me a little while to get established over there, and get used to their get familiarized with what exactly efforts are they running. I know some things about what they're trying to do overall, obviously, as part of my interviews that I did with them. But once I know the nitty-gritty details, I'll know much better what their appetite would be for wanting to join CDF. I'm definitely going to push for that. So yeah, I may reach out to you for some support on that.
Sounds great. Look forward to it.
Okay, so I'm not going to ask like what you think in each and every of these comments. So I think I can send a separate mail to a mail list with link to a roadmap with title saying that SIG Road Map update. So again, just repeating myself, like again, we have few things to drop, few things to move around, and few new things to add. But the main question, perhaps, I want to ask all of you is like, okay, supply chain, we have been talking about that for the last 10 minutes and even longer if we think the other topics is supply chain. What else do we want to, highlight? Like, it doesn't have to be done right now, but maybe as future items, like speculations are welcomed. Like if you have something in your mind saying, oh, this will be important, that would be a good thing to highlight in the roadmap, because this roadmap will probably end up in some random people which may find those things as interesting and important and can join us, helping us making an impact. So feel free to add anything you have in your mind, either directly on the document or as a comment, and then we make this document updated and hopefully find new things to work on.
Yeah, my vote would go for policy-driven CD, / quality gates. This is something that I designed a system at eBay to do exactly that. And it's met with really good results, and it's actually helped bring in the users of our pipelines in line with best practices. That and so the policies have to be very carefully set so that they are following best practices. But far too many internal development groups just weren't following them. But once we place these quality gates as part of the continuous delivery pipeline, and they saw that they're receiving the badges, because it's like a badge system, and as they're not receiving them, it highlights it in the pipeline that, hey, you did not adhere to this best practice as a part of your pipeline, and management just jumped on board, and boy, a bunch of groups at eBay are now adhering to these best practices that they've known about all this time, but they weren't highlighted. But because the pipeline highlighted it, now they're doing it. So it had a huge effect. So I think that's something that we really could standardize on.
Okay, I am struggling with Google Docs, so I'm adding it as a comment.
That's okay.
It's like it just jumps around when I try to type. But yeah, so yeah, I was like thinking of adding in policy-driven CD under software supply chain, but hearing you now makes sense to highlight that as a top-level item, and then perhaps we can cross-reference between software supply chain and policy-driven CD. Like, okay, quality is one thing that is critical. Policies could help with that, but at the same time, policies could help with security vulnerability type of stuff, which ties us back to software supply chain.
Yeah, and it's funny how things, where you place things makes a huge difference. Everyone's known about these best practices. They're out in the world. There's been 1,000 different talks on them, white papers, and all kinds of things. But people know about them. But once they appeared as part of their delivery pipeline, and it got highlighted, excuse me, it was highlighted during their delivery pipelines and PR validation pipelines. It all of a sudden it became the thing to do and the thing to adhere to. And what did it was the policy-driven stuff, quality gates. So it is very, very important.
You know what will happen now, Rami? Yeah, you will get an AP too.
That's right.
So I will now I have your personal mail address. I can add your personal mail address to this heading, so you get spammed by Google.
Yeah,
Docs.
I mean, I can basically ask our folks at eBay to see if we can at least open source the approach that I took, so we can discuss it openly here as one option, and others can jump in, because I know Kepton has a quality SLA based quality gates mechanism, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think they have that. Yeah.
Yeah. So that it's yet another way to approach adhering to practices. So yeah, well, we can discuss that at least and come to some agreement on what would otherwise be something we would suggest and recommend to the rest of the industry. So that would be my vote.
Yeah, that will definitely be in this, because it's already, it's already something we have been working on, and it will be really cool if we continue highlighting this topic. Anyone else? Any quick ideas? I think Emil, you were unmuting yourself. Maybe Matthias, Oliver, just pulling you in, because whatever comes to your mind would be probably a great idea. So we shouldn't lose those things.
Nothing with which I have right in my mind, but I'll think about it.
Yeah, just before Ramin talked about policies, I was actually about to say that we have actually concluded something about policies, at least. I mean, we have had these presentations, and I just think we shouldn't just drop that ball. So it's good that it's visible now in the roadmap that we want to continue talking about policy-driven CD, I think.
Cool.
But apart from that, I don't have really any good input right now.
Last one for me on the emphasis on policy-driven CI/CD. I think that's a great idea, Roman. Thank you. I think that, yeah, servicing that more, focusing on it. In terms of end users' input, do we want to liaise a bit more with the end user council?
Yeah, maybe we should bring this to one of the upcoming meetings, asking what they think. Yeah,
that would be awesome.
Yeah.
That would be great. That was what I was hinting at, Fatty.
Yeah, it's third week of each month. Yeah, that meeting.
Pretty.
Third Thursday of each month. Yeah. Can we AP you on that, because I don't remember when was that.
Yes,
meeting
yes.
happening.
I will find out the dates, find out when there's a next opening slot, and circle back and see what works for everyone. Because I think it would be really great to bring in more end users and share what we're doing, and I think that would be really beneficial for everyone involved.
Yeah. I think that was all I had to say about roadmap. As you see, it looks like messy at the moment, but yeah, once you have the link, it's in the meeting minutes, and then I will send a separate mail to a mail list. Just respond to comments or edit the document directly, and maybe we keep it as is and start from scratch by copying some things from this document to a new document, because it looks messy right now, and I messed up with Google Docs fighting. Yeah.
Thank you for all your work on this, Fatty. I actually think it looks great. It's evolving really well. So thank you.
Thanks.
The last thing I really wanted to say to this meeting is we're giving the CDF landscape a bit more attention, and we really want your input on a number of levels. If you know of any projects that should be added to the landscape, by all means, please raise a pull request. We welcome that contribution. In addition, and this is a little more appropriate probably for this group and other groups that are really thinking about this space, we do want to reconsider the categories on the CDF landscape. So those categories were kind of put together over a year ago, and maybe could do with a little bit of a look over. So we are considering how the tool landscape has changed, how we want to change our groupings, maybe some categories that are not in the landscape yet that really should be. There are a couple of suggestions around security, around compliance, and policy. And those suggestions are in the issues. You can raise an issue. So this is the landscape right now. Thank you for pulling it up, Fatty. This is as it is right now, but as you can see, not all the categories that we've even talked about today around like policy are really well captured in this. And so it is interesting to consider how we could do a different set of groupings, because the groupings really, it's a way to like logically structure how the CDF, how we see the CI/CD ecosystem landscape, and how we conceive of these different projects working together. It's a bit tricky because each project at this point can only have one card on the board. And as we know, so many of these projects could be in more than one category. So you have to kind of find the best fit category or what you would like to emphasize for a given project. But there are links in the notes for this meeting, both to the landscape itself, the repo, a couple of the issues around changing categories or adding new projects. So please do get involved. We do want to make sure everyone's represented, all the projects are represented, certainly all our members are represented, but we also just want more input from the wider ecosystem. We want many different opinions to be, to have their place within this landscape. If you have any questions about that, please feel free to ping me on Slack or raise an issue on the repo, or just discuss further with me if we're in this meeting or another meeting. Is there anything on this that jumps out at you as like, oh, really should be on there? How is it not?
No, Garrett is not there, version control.
Garrett, no. And it should be. It's so funny. One of the problems with adding projects, I'll just say it, is it's really hard to get an appropriate logo. And there's actually like SVG logo rules for the landscape, both for what will pass build, but also there's ways to make it look nicer. So as you can see, like Git and Gitee, I just put them up this week or so, and they don't have the names of the projects. They just have the icons in version control. And really we want the icon and then the name underneath. We would prefer it to be stacked in the way that, say, Tecton or Jenkins, that looks really nice. There's like a whole, there's a whole set of I guess design considerations that other people have thought about. And these are in the README to the best extent possible. If you click on them, actually a really nice card opens up and we get
Yeah, I was going to try that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you don't know the logo, then you don't know what that thing is like. Oh.
Yeah, it's Gitee, but it would be really nice to have the name. But that was the only logo I could find on Wikimedia Commons. And it's funny when you start Googling, you do get all these things that pop up that you're not sure if it's the correct logo, or they say, oh, this logo is actually copyrighted, contact us if you want to use it. So I just use the Wikimedia ones. But if anyone knows of a better logo for both of those, by all means, just change that, or really any of these, their information might need to be updated. You might find that they belong in a different category. You might want to raise an issue that this category is incorrect for this project. In fact, it makes me think there should be a whole nother category that's missing. And we can begin to discuss that in the issues on the repo and in meetings.
It's funny you should mention the Google results. The very first result when you do CDF landscape, what comes up is a landscaping company in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho.
Oh, that is not good. So we're definitely trying to scrub this up and make it more of a resource for the community and make it better represent the CI/CD ecosystem so that we dominate the Google search results of this landscaping company.
But it is nice that the second and third results are actually the GitHub result and the website continuous delivery landscape. So that's at least good.
Good. That's so funny.
This is the one. I mean, I suppose this.
Yeah. We are not based in Idaho. We're not going to clean your yard for you.
Sorry, I didn't mean to throw everyone off. That's just
that's good humor. I like that.
I actually noticed something here. Like, is this continuous automation new, or has it been there? Because I never really have seen this here.
I haven't changed any of the category groupings.
Okay.
So all of
that's-
these are the original ones.
So we are like working with CA, CI, CD, like one more letter following C, like continuous automation. Yeah.
Yes. And I'm not sure release automation. I mean, there's some of these that I'm like, is this really the best use of our, both people's mind space, like how much they can take in and what they take in right away. And also just in logical grouping of these projects, I feel like it could definitely be improved. So please provide your input and opinions. And make sure your favorite projects are represented.
And these are the issues where we can highlight new categories or projects and so on.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
And that's it on the landscape. I don't have anything else to add for this meeting, but if anyone else has any additional announcements or comments.
That's it for me.
Nothing.
Congratulations, Raman, again.
Thank
It's
you.
very exciting.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll see if I can bring Salesforce into the fold.
Nope. I hope so. That'd be fun. That'd be good. Great. So thank you all for being here. And thank you, Fatih, for working so hard on the roadmap. You've done great work. And we will all look at it more and provide more input. So great.
Yeah, thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.